Everybody, I have a special guest on my show. He's a life coach and he has this really successful channel called Geek Psychology, which helps gamers, geeks, and people who are very much into the MBTI system thrive in their life. He's a really great inspiration to me. And welcome, Matt, to the show.
Thanks for having me, Leon. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so Matt, on your website, you have certain programs that would help people be able to cultivate the best version of themselves. And it'll be great if you're able to talk about some of this. So the first thing is about the heroes framework. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's called the Hero Maker framework, and it started out as kind of just bonuses for people joining my Patreon years and years ago. And it was like just a collection of the best ideas that I learned, the best frameworks, the best models for understanding the world, for approaching problem solving and things like that. And I really just I kept focusing on it. I kept developing new videos to explain these concepts that had helped me so much in my life. And they are separated into mindset and goal setting and emotions, different, protocols for forgiveness or for dealing with strong emotions, rewriting the past, which sounds extremely woo-woo, and I guess it kind of is, but dealing with past traumas and releasing that emotional hold, and easier goal setting frameworks and things like that. Stuff that I struggled with, that I was like, I learned it helped me. I want to share it with other people.
Yeah. Can you tell us how you use some of these tools to be able to help transform your life? You mentioned about having difficulties yourself.
Yeah. I use them all because there were things that I learned that I was like, wow, this really helped me. I need to share it with somebody else. Like forgiveness, learning Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian technique for forgiveness. This is just amazing because there were a lot of grudges and things that I was holding on to, and issues with the past and people, and I was just able to forgive them and forgive myself and allow me to become more of who I could be.
Wow.
Just as one example, rewriting the past and stuff like that, of course, was extremely helpful.
Right. There's something you said right there, like if I'm able to forgive, I'm able to restart my life afresh in a way that I could be able to create my new self now that the past does not have a hold on me.
Yeah, definitely. What's the saying? It's like, having a grudge or not forgiving somebody is like taking poison and expecting them to suffer and die from it. Right. But it's you. It's just you. It's all within your mind. It's all something that you can adjust. And you should adjust. You can get rid of all that stuff. But people don't really learn the skills to do that.
Yeah.
And I felt that this was just one way of me putting them out into the world to share those things that helped me so much.
Wow, great. Can you tell us a bit, what's one kind of key takeaway someone could get from this program?
Well, each of the videos are standalone videos. So it's not a process. It's not a series of, steps to do it. And I think that itself is kind of a takeaway that there's so many ways to improve your life out there. And this one version might help. Energy work might be the thing for you. Hypnosis might be the thing. Just grit might be the thing that's helping your life. Emotional understanding, dealing with people better. There's so many different aspects. And so by broadening your schema and by learning things from all these different facets of life, I feel that you can link them into your life, and then you can improve your life, right?
Wow.
And those can connect to other things like You might be learning about forgiveness, for example, but that might tie into a story that you're writing or something like that, right? They're all just so possible to be connected. I don't know a better word of saying that, but
Yeah. Right. And these are all things that you've really have cultivated in your own lives. So like in our previous interview, you really have spoken about the difficulties you went through and the transformation that you've had. And you've used so many tools at your disposal, and you're basically putting hours and hours and hours of work that you have done on yourself, and you're giving it to people. So can you tell me more about the heroes framework and some of the other concepts that you have there?
There's just so many things. Like one of the biggest things that I learned when I was younger is how to do courage, how to not have courage, but like we all have it, how to access that and how to just do the things that you know you need to do, even if they're scary. Like that's one of the lessons, right? It's just a simple mind trick, I suppose, but it's a way of reframing how you perceive it. And by doing that, you can do more of the stuff that you should do, right?
So there's a way of you making it very real in your life. And yeah. And we talked about in your life in our previous interview about how you really have put yourself out there. You went abroad, you went to Japan, and you weren't really expecting of anything, but you just really knew you had to get out. Was that like an example of that? Like just going out and doing it?
Yeah. And I still live in Japan, and I've got a family and a life here, all because I was afraid of doing it before. I turned down the trip to go to Spain or something like that in high school, and I regretted it. And I learned about this. And then I was like, well, I can't let this chance go by again. And so I found ways of convincing myself that it was the right thing to do, despite how scared I was, right? Like it's not about not being afraid. It's about acting despite the fear.
Despite it,
right?
Yeah. So his courage is not the lack of fear at all.
Right. Yeah. It's just taking those actions that you should do.
Right. So the next thing is something that you do is that you also educate geeks and gamers as well about how they could be living their best lives. So can you tell us more about this?
Yeah. So without diving too deep into personality type and things like that, I've made some connections that I equate to different archetypes that most gamers and geeks and creatives, people writing stories and things like that, have a lot of inner access to, because of all the movies that you've seen, all the shows, all the books you've read and things like that. And I mean, I've actually heard from people that they use this to help write better characters for their stories and things like that too, right? Like it's all in there. And by allowing yourself to suspend disbelief for a bit and creating these like internal characters for you, this internal questing party, this internal fellowship or whatever it is, you start to gain access to different resources, different parts of yourself, which helps with problem solving, which helps with forgiving other people for doing things that you're like, why would you do it that way? And oh, well, it's because you play that character, right? That's your main character, of course. Like that's the hero of your story. You're going to do things in a different way than I do, and that allows you to create space and empathy for other people, for yourself. There are tons of dynamics for growth and things like that within that too.
Wow. So when you're saying this, I get the picture that what this does is that it helps us to be able to step back from our own experience and also the stories in our lives and reassess it from that creative standpoint, which is really healthy and helpful because we get really stuck and zone in on our own story. So to be able to step back and look at it with curiosity and play around with it
Yeah.
and see what you could do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I think one of the biggest things is use curiosity. Curiosity is the key that unlocks all learning potential, and see what you can do with it. Just play with it, right? And there's actually like there's tons more that goes into it. Like there are studies of people, like they're in a room, okay, they talk about pilots and pilots' eyesight, right? Oh, they have to have very good eyesight, right? And you know, they kind of pre-frame, they prime people with that. And then they take an eye exam, and then they put half of them into an actual like cockpit and dress them in pilot, uniform. And they do another eye test. Okay, can you read the numbers on the plane wing out there? And they have way better eyesight. And it's all about accessing that stuff within your brain that like we just don't have the science. Science hasn't caught up for it, I guess.
Yeah.
There's tons of studies like that.
Wow.
About just different potentials that are accessed through who you are imagining yourself to be.
Wow. So I think a key thing here is that the hero's framework, for example, like when you're talking about the hero's framework, this kind of reminds me of what you're talking about right now, in that you are the hero of your life. This is how you could develop your own sense of self-agency instead of being someone who's a passive character. And this makes me think about how in gaming, we really have the intention, you're leaning in when you're playing.
Yeah. The Hero Maker framework itself is not connected to developing these characters, but it's developing skills and skill sets, right? It's kind of just broadening your ability in your toolbox, your potential to, you got this big skill tree of a bunch of different options, and you go down this way a little bit, you learn some skills over here, and now you're able to handle the obstacles, the baddies, the bosses, the dragons, and stuff like that, because you've gained those necessary skills that you didn't learn in school.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, this could be very different from a lot of people's school experience, because the school experience is taking that agency out of people. And this is about like you becoming the person who's affecting your life.
Yeah.
So just a final area that we would like to talk about is being able to overcome failure. So you have this thing, it's called No More Fear of Failure. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, No More Fear of Failure is a mini course. It's 3 videos and like a congratulations video at the end, that came out of a request for a hypnosis track around fear of failure and success and things like that. So I made that hypnosis track, and I had a lot of people, commenting about not just that one, but my other ones too. And so I was like, well, what can I do to kind of give it some more like oomph behind it, I suppose. At that time, I also kind of restructured my metaphor for how I perceive my business. I've studied a lot about metaphors and things. And, some people say, oh, my business is my baby and I need to nurture it and care for it. And others perceive it as like a launch, right? They're launching their business. It's a rocket. It requires fuel, and there's transportation and stuff like that, shipping stuff. I shifted mine to being a vending machine, which sounds so like lackluster, I suppose. But with that came the thought of like, I just want a bunch of different like quench thirsting good products that people can buy easily. They're not extremely expensive. You're not buying the whole factory to make the drinks or whatever, right? There are tons of vending machines around here in Japan too, so I see them all the time.
That's where the metaphor's from.
It could be. I'm sure it like kind of found its way in. But like, and so I was just like, well, how can I just, instead of just releasing each hypnosis track in a package, who needs like 50 hypnosis tracks? I don't know if that's the right way of going about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a mini course around teaching some powerful tools and techniques to gain access to better versions of yourself, so that you're not afraid of failing, so that you can reshape your perspective around perfectionism, and how you perceive a failure in the first place, and what you should do with the, emotions that get in the way and stuff like that.
How does it work?
How does the course work?
Yeah, or like how does
There's the emotional domain, there's mindset domain, and then there's the physical action domain. So I have a video for each of those that teaches what I felt was the most leverageable, like asymmetrical skill that you could learn that would have the biggest impact on the rest of your life, with the goal of getting past fear of failure. Because I feel that fear of failure is one of those things that just holds the world's potential back. Because everybody's like, well, it's got to be perfect, or, I'm going to fail, or whatever it is, that they stop, they don't do it. And now we have so much more hardship and struggling and stuff like that, because people aren't accessing their potential.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a really powerful way to go about it, because when you are under hypnosis, it kind of puts you in that relaxed state. It helps you be able to have that confidence to play with it and see where things go. And that's why I really like that metaphor you have about the vending machine, right? I actually like it much better than "this is my baby," because you don't want your baby to die. But like with the vending machine, there's something like it's a very creative approach to it, and it takes the seriousness out of it too.
Yeah. There's I'm looking for the quote. I think it was a Carl Jung quote. I'm not sure. It's like a change in the metaphor can lead to a change in reality. And that's not the quote, right? But it's something like that. And it shifts everything. The way you perceive the world, and the metaphors that you use for it carry so much symbolism and baggage as well, and potential to unlock different things. And with the No More Fear of Failure course, the 3 teaching videos are not hypnotic. I chose the words that I used with intention and things like that. But there's a hypnosis track after that you listen to for 30 days, maybe even less, and it installs, it's a hypnotic installation, or it installs a better mindset around what you previously thought of as failure.
Installation is such a really important concept in psychology, because you could just talk about something and you could feel better, but then you won't really absorb and soak in that experience. So like having something that could really get into your core, like the hypnosis track, is a great thing. And something I've done before with Matt is that he gave me a hypnosis himself. And for me, it was a really incredible experience, because the thing that I wanted to push through was my own anxiety. And what he did was that he gave me, so he helped me visualize a map that will help me navigate through situations that are difficult for me, and what kind of resources can I use at my disposal that will help me along the way, and that helped me gain confidence in what I'm doing. I have another interview with Matt on my other channel, in which he talks about his life and how he has went through struggles and has overcome the struggles with resilience, and how he's able to cultivate tools from his own story and bring these tools out to people in order to help them with their lives. And be sure to check out Matt's stuff. I'll have it all down below in the description. It's great to have you. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for talking to me. I'm so lonely. Just kidding.